Alright is mate redacted. Bethesda used to be the golden child of open world RPGs. Oblivion at 95% positive reviews on Steam. Skyrim reportedly selling over 60 million copies. Contrast that with now. Starfield only has 58% positive reviews on Steam, a 37% plummet from their peak. It is clear that a lot of players have lost faith in Bethesda. There is a lot of criticism of Bethesda on the internet. I'm sure you've watched some of it. I think that a lot of these videos start with the conclusion that Bethesda is finished and then go from there. The question that I wanted to answer today is Bethesda actually finished? Is Bethesda really as finished as Mr. House was when you smashed that golf club across his face and knocked out all his decrepit, rotten teeth? I want to give a more balanced view and a less sensationalised take because it's great for clicks to say they are finished. Subscribe if you like this content. I put out a new video every 2 weeks or so. In order to predict the future, we must first look at the past. How did Bethesda get into this situation? Let's look at some review scores so that we can pinpoint where things started to go wrong for them. Games reviews are the place where we can get the largest amount of data on how players actually feel about the games that they play. Skip ahead if you don't want to hear my methodology for selecting the reviews. It's super interesting though, I promise guys. I was going to look at Steam reviews for this, but I think that since Steam reviews are either positive or negative with absolutely no middle ground, no option for a mixed review, they are slightly flawed. People who thought that a game was just okay may be reluctantly leaving a thumbs up or a thumbs down, which kind of skews the number. That reluctant thumbs up or thumbs down would be valued the same as someone who either loved the game and thought it was the best game they'd ever played, or valued the same as someone who vehemently hates the game if it's a thumbs down. I think gaming needs to really renew the system of reviews on Steam to give a bit more nuance here. So instead for reviews we're going to look at Metacritic for reviews on Bethesda's mainline games. I know Metacritic has its own problems, but unfortunately that's the best we can get. We will not be considering the reviews from official outlets because due to things like industry politics, games reviewers not really being gamers, and games journalists being ideologically captured, these review scores can be massively skewed. Look at a game like Dragon Age The Veilguard, which is relentlessly memed on, and for good reason. Look at the fucking nick of this. The gamer journalists gave it an aggregate of 82 out of 100, and I do not know what they were drinking, but I want some. The fans gave it an aggregate of 3.9 out of 10. So there is a massive gap in score there. So after that tangent, onto the data itself. I've made this lovely graph of all the data, so if you're only listening, please have a look. You can see that Morrowind, Oblivion, Fallout 3 and Skyrim have a really high review scores, all being in the 80s. Fallout 4, which was released nearly 10 years ago now in 2015, is where things started to drop off. Every mainline game which Bethesda has released in the last decade has been poorly received. Saying it was poorly received is a bit of an understatement, to be honest. The past 3 games from Bethesda were received like a kick square in the nuts. I think now that we're almost 5 minutes into the video, I can agree that yes, Bethesda actually is in quite a dire situation, with their last 3 games being absolutely pummeled in review scores, in Metacritic at least. I know in Steam the Fallout 4's review score is quite high, I think it's 84% positive, but the point still stands that Starfield, Fallout 76 have not done as well as they could have. But what happened to make all the games be received so poorly? Did Bethesda paint their office with lead paint? Did the development team start to smoke skooma? If they'd smoked Mike's premium skooma, they'd have been fine and made 3 absolute amazing bangers of a games. I think fundamentally Bethesda has made terrible and experimental games design decisions which did not gel well with their audience. As I said, a kick square in the nuts. They weren't bad games, but they were bad Bethesda games. Worse than what had come before it at least. Fallout 4 had a voice protagonist with a maximum of 4 options available to the player at any one time during dialogue, which is a gross simplification of what came before it. An in-depth backstory which meant that players couldn't really choose who they wanted to roleplay as unless they wanted to install mods. The player was either a soldier or a lawyer. The game was a massive simplification of what came before it. Fallout 76 released as a technical mess. It released years before it should have been. Pre-order promises were broken and it even bricked a few people's systems. Also, for some reason, they decided that there wouldn't be any NPCs in the game on launch, which meant that all the quests started via a note, a terminal or a robot. I think the idea behind it was that the players themselves would be the NPCs so that the world was fully populated by players. Luckily they did backtrack on this stupid design decision around a year after release and put in some NPCs. A bit late at that point as the damage had already been done. As wide as an ocean, as deep as a puzzle is a phrase used frequently by people who analyse Bethesda's game design methodology. I'm sure you've heard it before if you watch a lot of these videos. The scale of 1,000 planets does sound cool on paper, but there's no way that Bethesda would have ever been able to make the game have the same level of detail as the rest of the game worlds did. Which makes me wonder why no one stopped Todd Howard and told him that even though the idea of 1,000 planets is cool on paper, it would be shit and boring if it was implemented. Exploration is just gone in Starfield. One of the main attractions of Bethesda games is exploration. Again, Starfield also suffered from a lot of the simplification that Fallout 4 did, even more so to be honest. The stories and side quests were made bland and simplified to the point that they were basically meaningless. Personally also I think the shooting is good, but unlike the Fallout series which has VATS, the shooting system in Starfield is missing something. It's just a bit bland. You may as well just go and play fucking Call of Duty if you want a shooter. Todd Howard once said on a podcast that he wants as many people as possible to play his games, which sounds like a good thing. But in order to get as many people as possible to play his games, the games need to be simple, and he needs to cast a wide net with his games design decisions. This often means that no one gets the game that they wanted, because a game for everyone is kind of a game for no one. Morrowind was beloved by the community because it had gameplay mechanics and features which catered directly to the players. A convoluted story and quests where you needed to read the wall of text that the NPC delivered to you. Stuff like this would never fly anymore. In the spirit of making the game as accessible as possible to as many players as possible, you can now complete most of the quests and even the main story by skipping through all of the dialogue and just following the quest marker. When you get to the quest marker, there'll either be something to pick up or someone to shoot until they're dead. No exceptions. The thing that no one else mentions is that Bethesda does actually have some things which work in their favour and suggest that Bethesda is a company that is not ready to die just yet. For one, Bethesda made so much money from Skyrim and Skyrim re-releases that they could probably just become the Skyrim game company from now on, re-releasing Skyrim onto the PS6, PS7, Xbox, next one, I don't even know what it's going to be called, the Xbox 720. One of the probable reasons that the Elder Scrolls 6 has taken so long is that Bethesda have been able to successfully repackage and re-release Skyrim time and time again. They make massive money off of it. Todd Howard is quoted as saying, if you want us to stop releasing it, stop buying it. And that's true, stop fucking buying it, man. How many copies do you own of Skyrim? Comment that down below. I think that the buzz around the release of the Oblivion remaster and the fact that Bethesda were able to announce and release it on the same day shows that Bethesda is definitely not dead yet. An absolute baller move on their part, by the way, which I completely respect. Imagine any other studio going to their corporate overlords and getting approval to pull a move like that. There are very few game studios who can actually pull it off as well. Possibly Rockstar, but they're far too tactical to actually do anything like that. Rockstar are more like the Unabomber. Tactical, methodical, sitting inactive for years before being seen to do anything, biding their time until the next bomb is placed in the post. Whereas Bethesda are more like John Wayne Gacy. Oh, I think I'll kill this kid, chuck him under the floor. Last, but certainly not least, Bethesda were bought by Microsoft. Famously a company with incredibly deep pockets, blood-sucking corporates from Microsoft will not let Bethesda die until they get their pound of flesh. You can be sure that the execs at Microsoft will keep reanimating the corpse of Bethesda and making it dance to their tune until they get what they want. It's been 18 years since the Half-Life 2 Episode 2 was released. Just stay with me for a second here, I'm not going off in some random tangent, I am going to make a point. Valve, the developer of Half-Life, has not released or even teased Half-Life 3 after all this time. The problem Valve has with Half-Life 3 is that if the game is anything but an absolute masterpiece, the fans would be disappointed. As time goes on, the chance of the game being released and it matching or even exceeding fans' expectations decreases massively. Many people have surmised that Valve probably won't be releasing Half-Life 3 anytime soon, if at all, as Half-Life 3 being a disappointment would probably result in a loss of revenue in other parts of the business, Bethesda faces a similar problem with The Elder Scrolls 6. The longer that Bethesda leaves it, the less likely it is to be a success. If The Elder Scrolls 6 comes out and it's just a good game, it's not a great game, it's just mid, it probably won't just be the fans that lose faith in them. Their corporate overlords at Microsoft will lose faith in them too. It's definitely clear to me that Bethesda are in a hugely bad position. It's been more than a decade since Bethesda has put out one of their open world RPG games without fans being somewhat dissatisfied. I think the future of Bethesda ultimately swings on their next decade and the release of The Elder Scrolls 6. It's clear that they aren't completely done yet. Hopefully with the pressure that Xbox will be putting on Bethesda, we can assume that Bethesda is going to learn their lessons from Fallout 4, 76 and Starfield, and hopefully return to their roots to produce a few bangers of games in this next coming decade. I do commend Bethesda for actually trying to innovate, but they shouldn't stray too far away from the winning formula.